Happy Disney Month, everyone. You didn't think I'd leave a time-honored tradition like this go by, did you? Albeit it's a little misleading to call it a Disney month since my schedule on this channel has become once every 4 months if I'm lucky, but we're still doing something Disney related in October, so as far as I'm concerned, we're keeping Disney month on life support. So, some of you probably wondered why reviews haven't been happening as much as they used to, and it's a couple of factors. Laziness and procrastination are indeed factors. Other things keep my focus, and, well, nothing's really stuck. I want to change how my reviews work, to put my own spin on things and make my reviews more special when they get released, but nothing has really felt right, so I don't know. Regardless, I've had this script in the works since February. This is just one of the things I tried doing, so I just figured I'd pick it back up and chuck it out for Disney month. I do hope you enjoy it regardless. They say you shouldn't judge a show based on its first episode, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. For this series that I'll probably ever only post one episode of, I'm going to go through as many shows as I can and pick out specifically its first episode to see if the first impressions were worth it. You know, kind of a look at a show's first episode in a much broader context than what the first episode would tell you. I think this would be a fun project to work on to spread my viewing horizons, learn about shows that I may have never watched or that you may not have ever heard of, and just kind of give my own review of what's out there. For the first episode, I wanted to talk about a very disastrous show that didn't even stand a chance to stick into the public mind. We'll be looking at the 101 Dalmatians TV series. Yes, this existed. The history. Back in 1961, the Walt Disney Corporation released a movie called 101 Dalmatians. I haven't seen the movie in a very long time, but if memory serves me right, generally it was about this man named Roger, who marries a woman named Anita, who had a Dalmatian Perdita, who had a litter of 15 puppies, of which a woman named Cruella de Vil wanted to take and make into fur coats. It was deemed by critics at the time as the best Disney movie since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So the movie was pretty popular. Fast forward to 1997, and two guys named Jim Jenkins and David Ray Campbell a year prior had just ended a children's television show called Allegra's Window. And my guess were looking for more work. It was probably asked by someone at Disney to take the reins for the new upcoming show based on the 1961 movie, probably also hoping to play off of the hype of the live-action remake a year prior, despite how middle of the road it wound up being. They obviously agreed, and we got a show that aired from September of 1997 to March of 1998. Now, get this. It ran in that time span for 2 seasons and a total of 65 episodes. For those who do not understand, this should not make any sense, because a season typically refers to a year being on air, and with the show having a lifespan of 6 months, this meant the show's 2 seasons had to air simultaneously. And they did. Season 1 ran from September 13th of 97 to January 10th of 98 with 12 episodes, and Season 2 had a messier 53 episodes from September of 97 to March of 98. And the thing just got messier still, because Season 1 didn't even air on the Disney Channel and was instead aired on the American Broadcasting Channel, while Season 2 got the better, but still not great end of the stick and was put up for broadcasting syndication. Which may sound bad considering that syndication means it's going into multiple networks at once, but the show aired on the Disney Afternoon, which gave us a lot of hits. Gummy Bears, Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, and hell, even gave us the original run of DuckTales. However, there was a problem with the particular run of 101 Dalmatians. The Disney Afternoon was dying by 1997 due to the increasing popularity of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, making syndication less favorable. And by the time 97 rolled around, the Disney Afternoon was called the Disney-Kellogg Alliance due to the owner of the block, Leo Burnett, established a partnership with Kellogg's. By this point, the block was downsized to 90 minutes, which was pretty much a nail in the coffin to any of the other shows that were still running by that point. 101 Dalmatians premiered during that time frame, being the last of the shows to start airing on the block in total. Now, did it deserve such a fate? Well, let's look at the show's creators and maybe get an idea of the minds behind this show. The creators. Jim Jenkins and David Campbell are the creators of the show, and if you grew up in the early 2000s, you may be more familiar with their work than you realize, because this consistent duo made children's programming, almost exclusively. After 101 Dalmatians, these guys went together to work on shows like PB&J Otter, Stanley, JoJo's Circus, and the show called Pinky Dinky Doo. I must be too old to fully remember that one. Of course, they also worked on the aforementioned Allegra's Window, all of which Jenkins was the head of. But this is a show for older kids, right? Surely this wasn't their first time writing something that wasn't trying to actively teach a younger audience. No, don't worry, we're fine, because Jim's first work wasn't Allegra's Window. Jim and, by proxy, David both worked on a show called Doug. You may have heard of it, you may not have. I don't know the age of my audience, but I'll assume that if you've seen any 90s kids compilations, you've probably heard the theme somewhere. I'll probably wind up doing an episode of Doug in the future, assuming I do any more of these. I'll at least do a review of Doug in the future, for sure, but just know the show had a slow kick into popularity. Now, that said, getting myself familiar with Jenkins and Campbell's other works, their stuff is very... okay. Again, most of the shows are educational children's shows, so you shouldn't expect a whole hell of a lot. And as far as Doug goes, it was pretty good until the ABC run. Not terribly great, but good enough if you enjoy a very down-to-earth cartoon that takes few risks, which should probably give you the impression that you need for what's to come. Now let's get on to the first episode. The episode. We start in the city as we see Nanny being dragged by the Dalmatians when a thug comes to steal Nanny's purse. The Dalmatians give chase and Lucky breaks off to chase the thug. It doesn't last long as he's chased off and the dogs and Nanny return home. Roger and Anita talk about moving to the countryside with a bigger area for the dogs to roam, and they move, all within the time span of 5 minutes. I suppose it can't be helped. You do need to establish a lot in regards to a setup like this, but when all you really establish is our main 3 characters, Lucky, a headstrong leader type who really wants things done his way or the highway, Cadpig, an annoyingly optimistic dog who more than likely has a very snappy side to her because, of course, that's just how those characters work, and Roly-Poly, the fat one, want to get back to civilization for, like, the 4th of the episode, excuse me for having a trouble caring. We then meet the neighbor Cruella de Vil, who wants to buy the farm as it bumps against her own property, of which she quickly gets turned down. This will be the foundation for a lot of Season 1 episodes. Cruella will do whatever of the week to try to get the family off of the farm so she has more space, I guess. We never really get an explanation as to why it's a problem that it bumps against her farm, just that apparently it is and she wants to buy the farm. At least in the movie we knew why Cruella wanted to buy the litter, being she wanted to make them into fur coats, but here it's never explained as to why, and she spends about 12 episodes trying to get it. I'll touch more on that a little bit later, but like, this is just dropped onto us without any rhyme or reason. The next morning, Lucky, Cadpig, and Rolly sneak off back to the city so they can spend the day back home. Cruella sees them, shows up, and gives chase. But once she's unsuccessful, just locks them back up in their old home and sets them up for ransom so that Roger and Anita will sell the farm. When Pongo and Pretty hear about this, they call it to the heavens while the pups are miserable back home. And with that, they try to escape in some quick results, one of which causes Lucky to hear about Cruella's scheme. Of course, this is where the 2 goons Cruella hired earlier in the episode come in, fumble about, and release the hounds. You know, rather standard stuff. Then the rest of the episode just generally devolves into a race against one another to get back to the farm. Cruella gets her comeuppance of the week, and they all lived happily ever after. And, I mean, I really expected such from a pilot. Simplicity to get the concept out of the way to lay the foundation for the rest of the series, but was it the standard? The following episodes. In short, it both was and wasn't. Season 1 basically sticks to this formula for the rest of its runtime, while Season 2 dropped off the Cruella scheme of the week almost entirely, focusing on other characters and stories, and only every now and then to bring back Cruella actually trying to get the pups off the farm. Other times that Cruella's on the show, it's basically a get-rich-quick scheme that goes terribly awry. I definitely prefer Season 2 over the first one due to this variety. Like, first example comes to mind is an episode called The Two Faces of Anita, where Cruella gets some really crappy plastic surgery to make herself look like Anita to win some fashion award Anita actually won, and then gets spoiled by hot stage lights. It's not particularly funny, but it's an interesting enough idea to keep me invested within the 22 minutes it's worth. I also like Howl Noon, which is a Season 1 episode, but probably the best of the Season 1 episodes, as it's a better look into what otherwise would be a very one-dimensional character instead of focusing on Cruella's shit. But that's unfortunately a diamond in the rough for the first 12 episodes. I'll basically just say, only watch the first season if you're a completionist when you binge like me. Otherwise, you can skip to the beginning of Season 2 or Episode 13, depending on how you watch it. Not to say Season 1 is bad per se, but it's just you're not missing much. I think the show probably could have done better had it not been on a dying block fighting with the rest of itself on 2 separate networks. But now for the question all 2 of us, are asking. Did it deserve more seasons? No, I don't believe it did. Honestly, 101 Dalmatians was dead on arrival, coming in far too late for anyone to actually care. Hell, even at the time of 1997, the cartoon scene in particular was changing. Cartoons started aging, with more mature audiences being catered to more so than the kids of then, and the birth of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon didn't really help matters for the already established kids market, as they took the fuck over, and even had Disney not lost its ABC programming block, the show would have still not have aged very gracefully in the new era. Shows like 101 Dalmatians just didn't really compare to the more action-y shows of like Pokemon or Batman, or the more comedy-based ones like Nickelodeon's Angry Beavers or Cow and Chicken. On top of that, there were just better Disney shows that played with the mundane, so 101 Dalmatians wasn't even interesting in that department. The show just came in far too late, and that was its downfall. Anyway, that's your Disney review. You can probably guess why this method of reviewing hasn't stuck, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed. Take care.